Yesterday, the Department of Justice released its largest batch yet of documents related to the convicted sex offender, the late Jeffrey Epstein.
On December 23, 2025, U.S. Department of Justice released its third and largest batch of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, totaling nearly 30,000 pages. This tranche, mandated by the Epstein Files Transparency Act, signed into law by President Donald Trump in November 2024, included flight logs, emails, court records, photos, and other materials from investigations into the late financier and convicted sex offender. Among the most discussed revelations was an internal email from January 7, 2020, sent by an unidentified federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. The email, addressed to a colleague for what it called situational awareness, stated that newly reviewed flight records showed Donald Trump had traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously reported or known to investigators. Specifically, the prosecutor wrote that Trump was listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 1993 and 1996. At least 4 of those flights also included Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate, who was later convicted in 2021 of sex trafficking and sentenced to 20 years in prison. The email noted that some flights involved family members. Trump's then-wife Marla Maples, his daughter Tiffany, and his son Eric appeared as passengers on various trips, suggesting these were often personal or family-oriented journeys rather than solitary ones. The records highlighted a few particular flights that drew attention. One in 1993 listed only Trump and Epstein as passengers. Another had just 3 names: Epstein, Trump, and a 21-year-old individual whose name was redacted in the released documents, on 2 additional flights. Passengers included women prosecutors described as possible witnesses in the case against Ghislaine Maxwell again, their names redacted to protect identities. The prosecutor emphasized reviewing over 100 pages of dense flight logs and wanted to flag these details to avoid surprises later, especially since the time frame overlapped with periods relevant to potential charges in the Maxwell investigation. These revelations came amid a broader release that also contained photos of Epstein and Maxwell, discussions of potential co-conspirators, a fake letter purportedly from Epstein to convicted abuser Larry Nassar that the DOJ quickly flagged as forged, and other miscellaneous items like a passport with Epstein's photo under a false name. The Justice Department accompanied the drop with a statement on social media, stressing its commitment to transparency while protecting victims through redactions. It explicitly noted that some documents included untrue and sensationalist claims about President Trump, submitted to the FBI before the 2020 election, and described those specific claims as unfounded and false. The department added that if any had even a shred of credibility, they would have been weaponized politically long ago. Importantly, nothing in the released email or flight logs accuses Trump of criminal wrongdoing or suggests he had knowledge of or involvement in Epstein's sex trafficking crimes. The mentions appear purely in the context of a long-ago social acquaintance from New York and Palm Beach elite circles in the 1990s. Trump and Epstein moved in overlapping worlds of wealth, real estate, and high society during that era. In a 2002 New York Magazine profile, Trump described Epstein as a terrific guy who liked beautiful women. On the younger side, a comment that has been heavily scrutinized in hindsight, but reflected the casual tone of their interactions at the time. Their relationship ended years before Epstein's legal troubles became public. Accounts of the fallout vary slightly but converge on the mid-2000s. One factor often cited is a 2004 bidding war over Maison de l'Amity, a bankrupt oceanfront mansion in Palm Beach. Trump outbid Epstein and purchased it for around $41 million, reportedly creating lasting resentment. Trump has emphasized a different trigger: Epstein or Maxwell allegedly attempting to hire away young female staff from the spa at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's private club. In recent statements, Trump described confronting Epstein about it repeatedly, warning him to stop and eventually banning him after the behavior continued. He called Epstein a creep and said he declared him persona non grata at the club. Another reported incident, detailed in books and by attorneys representing Epstein victims, points to around 2007 when Epstein allegedly made inappropriate advances toward the teenage daughter of a Mar-a-Lago member at the pool. Trump, upon hearing the complaint, reportedly reacted strongly to protect the club's reputation and barred Epstein permanently. Attorney Brad Edwards, who represented victims and spoke with Trump during the investigation, noted that Trump was one of the few high-profile figures who provided useful information early on. Unlike others who stayed silent, Trump has consistently denied visiting Epstein's private island, Little St. James, often nicknamed the Lolita Express. Island in Mediand reiterated in 2024 that he was never on Epstein's plane or at the island. The released logs pertain to domestic flights on the jet, primarily between locations like Palm Beach, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C., not international trips to the Caribbean property. By the time Epstein faced his 2008 plea deal in Florida and later his 2019 federal charges, Trump and Epstein had had no contact for well over a decade. Trump estimated 15 years by 2019. The December 2025 release sparked immediate political reactions. Some Democrats, including members of the House Oversight Committee, criticized the DOJ for partial or delayed compliance with the transparency law and called for further probes into why. Earlier tips about Epstein were not fully pursued. Bipartisan figures like Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie expressed frustration and even discussed inherent contempt charges against Attorney General Pam Bondi over handling. Trump dismissed the renewed focus as a distraction from his administration's priorities, while allies pointed to the DOJ's own caveats about unfounded claims. The broader context of Epstein's case remains grim. Epstein died by suicide in a New York jail cell in August 2019. While awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges, his associate Maxwell was convicted. But questions linger about other potential co-conspirators. Mentioned in old emails, though none beyond Maxwell have faced charges from these files. The releases, while voluminous, have not produced a so-called client list or major new criminal revelations against high-profile figures. Despite years of speculation, in summary, the 2020 prosecutor email unearthed in the 2025 batch confirms Trump's presence on Epstein's jet more frequently in the mid-1990s than earlier public records suggested, often alongside family or Maxwell. Yet it stands as historical detail of a friendship that soured long before Epstein's crimes came to light. With no evidence linking Trump to those crimes, the documents underscore the challenges of separating fact from sensationalism in a case that has gripped public attention for years, even as the Justice Department continues navigating transparency demands against victim protections. The full files remain available on the DOJ website for those seeking to review the primary materials themselves.